There is a decade in a person's life where money habits are formed almost entirely by accident. Not through malice, not through stupidity, but through the quiet accumulation of small, reasonable-seeming decisions. That decade is the 20s, and by the time most people notice the pattern they've built, it's already load-bearing. The first trap is the most seductive because it feels true, the sense that time is infinite. At 22, retirement is 45 years away, an abstraction too distant to feel real. This isn't laziness, it's how human brains are wired. Psychologists call it temporal discounting, the tendency to undervalue future rewards in favor of present ones. But compound growth doesn't care how abstract the future feels. A dollar invested at 22 has roughly twice the growing time of a dollar invested at 32. The cost of waiting isn't measured in years, it's measured in the exponential curve those years would have fueled. The myth isn't that people believe they'll never invest, it's that they believe 5, 6, 7 years of delay is a rounding error. It isn't.
The second trap is quieter and more insidious. It doesn't arrive as a single bad decision. It arrives as 100 small upgrades that each feel earned. A raise leads to a nicer apartment. A promotion leads to a nicer car. Every increase in income is matched, almost mechanically, by an increase in spending. This is lifestyle creep, and its danger lies in its invisibility. Nobody sits down and decides to stay financially stagnant forever. Instead, the gap between income and expenses, the gap where wealth is actually built, never widens because expenses are recruited to fill it as fast as income arrives. The person doesn't feel poor, they feel, if anything, like they're doing well. That feeling is precisely what makes the trap so effective. The third trap is a shift in vocabulary that quietly reshapes decision-making, measuring purchases not by what they cost, but by what they cost per month. A car isn't $40,000, it's $400 a month. A couch isn't $3,000, it's $85 a month, interest-free. This reframing makes almost anything feel affordable because monthly payments can always be stretched thinner. But total cost tells a different story than monthly cost does. Financing stretches a purchase across years, and interest quietly compounds against the buyer instead of for them. The question, can I afford $400 a month, is the wrong question. The right one is this the best use of $40,000 across the whole span I'll be paying for it? Few people ask that second question because the financial industry has spent decades training them not to. The fourth and perhaps deepest trap is the substitution of visible status for invisible security in the most socially observed years of a person's life. In that environment, spending becomes a signal. The watch, the bag, the car, purchased not purely for utility, but as evidence of arrival. The trouble is that security, an emergency fund, freedom from debt, is invisible. Nobody applauds a 26-year-old for having 6 months of expenses saved. Status is rewarded socially in real time. Security is rewarded financially, decades later, in silence. None of these 4 traps operate in isolation. They reinforce one another, funneling into a single dark tunnel labeled debt cycle. Together, they form a closed loop, one that feels, from the inside, like ordinary adult life. Escaping the loop doesn't require extraordinary discipline or dramatic sacrifice. It requires something much simpler and much harder, seeing the pattern while it's still being formed, rather than a decade later when it has already hardened into habit.